so Tuesdays and Thursdays are the meetings, Mondays and Fridays, you said that's when you're reading submissions. So if I were a querying author, it sounds like Monday morning, as early as possible, is the best time to send a query your way. Or
That's a good
Monday night
question.
when you get to it.
That's a good question. I don't know that I would say, does it matter? I don't know. I feel like I would tell an author not to stress about that. I mean, I think, maybe it's possible that Monday morning is my freshest time to look at things, but I am looking every single day. So I don't know. I would say just send it when you're ready and don't stress about it. There's enough to stress about when you're sending your book out on submission.
Yes, why am I adding extra?
I mean, anything that gives a leg up, I get it, but I feel like for me, it doesn't make enough of a difference, but yeah.
Okay, so we won't impress you with our time, and how will we impress you with our query? What's going to grab your attention?
Yeah, great question. Very glad you're asking this. I know it's something we talk about a lot with authors, but it's still, I think, so great to remind folks how important it is to really, like, from the top, sort of make sure you are citing your comps, and making sure that your comps are applicable to the current marketplace, or at least the marketplace in the last 5 years. So, making sure you're saying your book is like, would sit alongside these titles on the shelf. Make sure that's in your opening paragraph, as well as, your one sentence, or two sentence pitch right off the top being as strong as you can make it be. I mean, really, because we get so many queries, it's very important to make an impression right from the top, as opposed to expecting that an agent is necessarily going to make it to the very bottom of your pitch. And we, of course, do our best, but I think there are oftentimes things that people can do in the beginning of their pitch that can be turnoffs as well. And you want to make sure you avoid things like, getting too in the weeds on things that don't have to do with your story. We want to know about your personal life, but maybe save that for the paragraph at the bottom where you tell us your bio, as opposed to, explaining your personal reasons for writing this up top, if that makes sense. I think just getting to the nuts and bolts of it as quickly as possible is just so important when we have so many queries coming in.
Does it turn your head if I say something insightful that I discovered about you online? Like, I saw you on the Middle Grade Ninja podcast. I heard you say the following thing. Does that turn your head and let you know that I've done my research, or would you prefer I just got straight to the pitch and then worry about the rest of it later?
I think it's good to know where you found me, if that's the case, and if something that I said, resonated with you, then great. Feel free to mention that. I think I would say that the thing that maybe where that sort of dividing line is, I think a lot of writers querying like to kind of quote you back at yourself and say, I saw in this thing you're looking for XYZ, and my book is XYZ. Sometimes that can feel a little bit like they're trying really hard to connect you with their story before they've actually told you about their story, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm being a little nitpicky there, but does that make sense?
You're the one going to be making the decision. Tell us all the nitpicks.
I mean, I think it's I guess what I'm trying to get at is you want to make sure you're sounding authentic and don't feel like you have to quote somebody's wish list back at them, because they know what they're looking for. You don't have to remind them, right? So but yeah, if you found me on the Middle Grade Ninja podcast, and and there's if there's something that we have that's a personal connection, like we're both from Michigan or whatever, feel free to mention that. That's kind of fun for me to know. But I would say don't go too far into trying to do all that up front. A quick mention is great, and then tell me about your book, because that's what I'm really here for.
Or if I could tell you, you and I were talking before we got started about one of my favorite authors and favorite people, Jessica Lawson.
Yeah.
I know you edited her books, all of them, haven't you? Most of them?
No, her first 3 books, yes. Yeah.
So if we were to mention that Jessica Lawson, author of the Truthful Adventures of Becky Thatcher, Nooks and Crannies, and many others, check her out. Check the back catalog, esteemed audience, for my conversation with Jessica Lawson. I promise it's worth your time. So if we were to say, hey, I've written something similar to Jessica Lawson, which all lies, because only Jessica Lawson can write Jessica Lawson. But if we mention that, hey, you like this particular author, would that turn your head a little bit toward us?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for sure. if somebody felt like their book comped well to somebody that I had worked with, definitely I would say bring that up. Yeah, that cannot hurt at all. And I think it also, it helps to know that somebody, I think if you know that somebody if the books I've edited resonate with a writer, it means there's a greater likelihood that, I may enjoy their work. So sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that would at least set your appetite for, I might be about to get something enjoyable here. I'll read the whole pitch rather than giving up after the first terrible sentence.
Yeah, I would say, again, like keep that kind of a mention, like brief, and then get to your story. But by all means, yeah, feel free.
Okay, so obviously the pitch has to stand on its own. Ideal pitch for you, you want 2 sentences, those are the strongest up front, or what's the ideal pitch look like?
The ideal pitch for me is where your first 2 sentences, it's hard to get too specific about this because I think there are definitely different ways to do this. But the things that really hit home the most for me are the people who have a great, like, 1 sentence, elevator pitch that's like, sort of does something to express the tone of the story, what might be at stake, and then follow that sentence with, what the comps might be, or that could be one or 2 sentences, whatever it might be. There's not like a specific number I feel like I need to see. But yeah, how like I like to think of like taglines on the front of a book. Like if you can write a great like tagline up front that might hint about what the story is about, like that's a really great way to start. Yeah, does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
I know that you're going to be looking mostly at electronic queries, but I can see there's the start of a fireplace behind you. I like to imagine you reading old-fashioned mailed queries and like 3 sentences to the fire. Next.
Yeah, I'm definitely not I'm not that picky. I think as long as I know that you've done your homework and you know how to get my attention right away with your story, like that's the important thing. Because if you can write a great query letter, the chances are your pages are going to be really strong too. If you've clearly done your homework, it means you've also probably done the homework in your craft and in your work on your manuscript. So the query letter does really matter.
Gotcha. So the author gets past that. They've got you hooked with the pitch. Next thing you look at is, do you go straight to their pages? You go to their bio? What are you looking at next?
Sorry, after the query letter, or?
Yeah, after you've read the pitch and you're like, this sounds like 100% a great story that I'm going to be interested in. What's the next thing you look at to evaluate whether you want to see this full manuscript? Do you look at the author's bio? You visit their website?
Occasionally I will visit a website. The bio is always interesting to me, although, there's not like a formula for what makes a good author. So that's mostly just like really interesting for me to know. And of course, if they have published works, that's also helpful and might make me interested to look further. Or if they have, a degree in writing or what have you, that can't hurt to know. But for me, honestly, I really like to get to the pages. So if your pitch has captured me, I will often request the full and just see what happens, because, the projects that I've signed so far have been the stories I've opened up and haven't been able to put down. So I often don't even really bother with the 10-page sort of sample. I like to kind of get the whole thing, because if I'm able to have the experience of just wanting to like plow through a story, like give me that opportunity, I'd love to do that. And it's, once you dig into the writing, it's pretty easy as an agent to get a sense of whether this person's writing holds up or not.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, whether I send you 10 pages or 50 pages, once you hit something that makes you go, well, this isn't going to be well done, then you're out the other way, right?
Yeah. Pretty much. And I feel like that sounds, I know it's tough on a lot of writers, right? Because like getting the beginning right is so hard. And so, but the truth of the matter is, with the number of queries coming in, you can't really expect someone to wait till page 50 to really get sucked in. Like you kind of need to get them, right off the bat, at least with your writing. The story doesn't necessarily have to be perfect, but I think I know my taste well enough to know whether I connect with the writing more or less in the first few pages.
Well, keep going. Page 99, a stranger comes to town.
Yeah, right, exactly.
We'll never get there. Into the fire with this one over there. Fair enough. So